Good morning again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Loretta Malaka, the program manager for the First Leadership Academy, who is organizing this webinar. It's a monthly webinar that is designed to have conversations around leadership, strategy, culture, and everything that affects the workplace and affects productivity in the workplace. And that is why we're here today, to have another engaging conversation as it relates to the workplace. It's my pleasure to welcome every one of us. I'm seeing some names who have constantly attended our webinars in the last couple of months. I want to say thank you for your consistency. Please, we have the rules already on the screen. The Chatham House rules will be the Chatham House rules will be observed in this meeting, and that means that participants are free to use the information that they would receive, because it's going to be very helpful, educative information. So you're free to use this information, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers may be revealed. And please, I see that some persons have joined already, and they still have either the name of their devices as their Zoom name, or maybe some characters. So the idea is that this is supposed to be an engaging conversation. So for us to engage, we should be able to call you, by your name. Imagine if it were a physical meeting, the tables might be labeled, or you might have name tags that would help us to easily engage and speak with you. So please, it's important that you rename your Zoom name. And to do that, all you need to do is to go to the participants section. You see the participant tab, you click on that, and then you click on the more icon on your name. So you find your name on the participant list, click on the more icon, and then you click on rename. So that way you can have your full name. If your name is, for example, I'm Loretta Malaka, I'll just type that in, and you're good to go. Also, to speak during the session, kindly click on the reaction tab. If you also check on your screens, you see the reaction option, so you can raise your hands. The speaker would see that and call you to share your comment or to ask your questions. So this is to encourage decorum in the meeting. And if you'd also rather type in your questions, please feel free to share in the chat box. The last conversation we had was very engaging. We had people share their experiences in the chat box, and some even raised their hands and verbally shared their experiences. So we hope that today is going to be something like that, or even better than that. So you can share your experience, your comments, your questions in the chat box. I will be constantly checking the chat box so that I can raise the questions to the facilitators or to the speakers. Always remember to keep your speakers mute, please, so that there will be no interference during the meeting. Yes, so today we have all our facilitators here on board to share their experiences, to share their knowledge with us, and hopefully to learn from us, because nobody is an island of information or an island of learning. So we hope that today we'll be able to rub minds. We have the agenda. As usual, our meetings are for 90 minutes, and we have the conversation. We're having the welcome and introductions at the moment, and then we go on to have an opening remark, and then we invite Dr. Jibril Abdulmalik to give the keynote address. And he's a psychiatrist and he's in the medical field, so he'll be able to bring some medical practical experiences as well to the conversation on mental health in the workplace. And then we have the panel session that would run for about 15 minutes. And the panelists will share their contributions to the conversations. They would share their experiences as well. And then we'll move on to the Q&A. And this is where we need your interaction, your questions, your experiences as well. So that, and by 11:30, as we always do, we'll have round up and continue our planned meetings and engagements for the day. So I introduced myself as the program manager for the First Leadership Academy. So what do we do? The First Leadership Academy is a training arm of the TL First group. And this is a group of leading consultants in the area of transformational leadership and governance. We deliver high impact learning and leadership development strategy to enable leadership teams, enterprise-wide transformations, and performance improvements. And these are some of the things that have driven the conversations that we've had since we started this executive roundtable. And we're providing over 3 decades of experience offering this education to both public and private sector leaders, right? We're an indigenous company, but yet we compete favorably with other international organizations, and we've also been recognized by the UK Business Leadership Award. So you know that you're in good hands and you're going to be engaging with some of our consultants today during the conversation. So while we're speaking, I would like to know you, you've known me and who I represent. I'd like to know you as well. So please feel free in the chat box to share your name, where you're joining us from, and what your expectations are for today's conversation. Prioritizing mental health in the workplace. Prioritizing mental health in the workplace. So I'll be checking the chat box to see if we have any questions or any comments. Okay, we're having participants from Lagos, our facilitator, Ms. Maureen Carter. It's a pleasure to have you with us. She's joining us from the UK. You're very welcome, Ma. We have Winifred Obam joining us from Lagos. Our facilitator, Ms. Maureen Carter, is saying, I'm looking forward to a learning and engaging conversation. Looking forward to take some workable nuggets that would shift my perspective and change the way I work going forward. Interesting. And our facilitator as well, our keynote speaker, Dr. Jibril Abdul Malik, a psychiatrist joining us from Ibadan here in Nigeria. He looks forward to a nice exchange of ideas and honest conversation. I think that's very important. Honest conversations around mental health in the workplace. You're welcome. We also have Mr. Stephen Clark joining us as well. Thank you. He's also one of our facilitators. He's a change and a culture consultant, so he would also be bringing his perspective around workplace culture and how they affect, mental health and resilience, mental well-being of employees. So I'm looking forward to a very, very interesting conversation. We also have our group managing director, Dr. Odola Sade, on the call. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Okay. So we're seeing a number in front of our screens, and I'm sure you're curious, what is this number about? What is this number? So I would like 2 or 3 persons to guess what this number represents. In the chat box to hear your responses. What do you think this number represents? What do you think this number represents? Number on your screen right now. The number on your screen right now, what do you think it represents? I would like to hear. Or you can use the reaction tab, you can raise your hands and I'll call you up, or you can drop it in the chat box. What do you think this number, this staggering digits, what do you think it represents? For those of us in Nigeria or any other African country, you know that if you want to convert this into Naira, I'm sure on your calculator, you'd have an error sign on your calculator. So what do you think these digits represent? I'm looking forward to, let me check the chat box. Yeah, trillion. Losses due to mental health issues in business. Thank you, Mr. Stephen Clark. Dr. Chibru says lost productivity from mental illness. Okay, amount spent on handling mental health. $1 trillion. That is huge. That is huge. And let me see if I'll get any more responses before I go on. Yeah, $1 trillion, $1 trillion. This number or this value that you have in front of the screen is what the World Health Organization estimates as the amount that is lost in productivity every year because of mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, stress, burnout. That is the value that the workplace is losing every year. Some statistics is saying that over 60%, and I'm sure especially in the African context or in Nigerian context, that value would even be bigger, that over 60% of employees do not talk about mental health, do not disclose their mental health status at work. I was listening to a podcast some days ago, and we're talking about burnout, and they're like, burnout is you're burnt out and you keep working, you keep pushing on because you don't want to be seen or described as lazy, so you keep working, you keep pushing on. An interesting thing is that people are also seeing self-care options as even doing more work, but now looking for more purposeful work to ease the burden or the pain of burnout. So we're losing this amount of money, and yet we are not talking about mental health in the workplace. Why? And mental issues, I think the good thing about the COVID-19 pandemic that happened 2 years ago, as increased the conversation or underlined the conversation, or will I say put a loudspeaker in front of mental health issues, because things just blew up. The anxieties that came up from the spread, people didn't want to get infected. Well, as that begins to decline or reduce, the fear and the anxiety concerning contacting the disease begins to reduce. Other anxieties are coming up. The cost of fuel, the cost of diesel, the cost of things. For example, in the market, you go to get your groceries, you go to the market, and things that used to cost way cheaper is even more expensive now. Just yesterday, Piggyverse was asking its audience to mention some things that have changed in the market. And a lady said she used to buy spaghetti, that's a form of pasta, for 250 naira when she was in school. And now it's now 400 naira. That's about 150 naira increase in price, right? And for context, she just graduated last year. So between 2021 and 2022, there's been an increase of over 150 naira in pasta. So prices are going up, revenue or salaries are not going up, and people are anxious. It's raising up anxiety issues. People are stressed. They have to get more jobs to get more income to drive their homes, their families. These things are bringing, and then the fights to be able to have this work-life balance. I think it's something I would love to hear what our panelists have to say about it. Work-life balance, is that even possible? I'm hearing also about no longer work-life balance, but work-life integration. So the traditional view of the workplace is that people put their lives to the side, they come to work, and then they go back to their lives. But now we're evolving towards a model where people can bring part of their lives into their workplace, because you don't stop being a human when you're in the workplace. You're not a machine when you're in the workplace. So this means that we should begin to take away the stigma of talking about mental health issues in the workplace. People should be able to express themselves. And that's why we're having this conversation. We're having this for people who want to belong to an organization with a purposeful, diverse, and flexible culture that ensures they have true support to navigate personal, challenges. So can people freely share their challenges at work? Will they not be judged? Would they not be seen as weak? Wouldn't it affect the probability or the opportunity for them to move up the radar just because they've shared a mental health challenge that they might have? So it is my hope that at the end of today's webinar, because interestingly, I'm seeing, I can see HR directors now on the call. I can see team leads on those calls, and CEO from our registration list, leaders of organizations joining this conversation. So my hope is that everyone here, employers, team leads, supervisors, managers, will be motivated to improve their workplace culture or change it totally, if you see that change is what you need, not even improvement, that you change or improve your workplace culture, and you normalize how you can talk about mental health within your organization, be equipped to spot mental health. That's what I hope that Dr. Jibril will share with us, how to spot, that, oh, this team member might be having certain issues. How can I help, and how to bring up this conversation or approach or support, because one thing I'm learning also in this issue of mental health is language use. So how you can support, persons that are expressing some of these symptoms in the workplace. So today is going to be awesome. I feel it already, and I know there's going to be an awesome conversation. And please, to even make it more awesome, would like you to share your experiences, share your questions. And like Dr. Jibril said, be honest with your questions. We're using the Chatham House rule. This is a safe space for you to share your experiences, share your challenges, ask your questions, because we hope that you leave here better equipped to be a mental health champion in the workplace, not just because this month is the mental health awareness month, but because mental health is something that continues even after the month of May. So at this point, I would like to invite our Group Managing Director, Dr. Olu Olasade, to share a few words with us, to share the opening remark with us on this call. Okay, so I will just proceed. Please give me a minute. Please share your experiences or share your expectations for this webinar on the group page while we just share your expectations in the group page or on the group chats. I'll be looking forward to okay. Unfortunately, during this, the network isn't so good, so we may need to just skip straight into the keynote addressed by Dr. Jibril. Dr. Ololasade will join us later on in the conversation and hopefully share the closing remark. Right now, he's experiencing some network glitch, so let's not delay, and let's just ride on the conversation. So I'd like to introduce or welcome Dr. Jibril Abdulmalik to share the keynote speech, sir. You're welcome, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm delighted to be with all of you, and looking at the array of distinguished panelists we have, I'm sure we'll have a robust conversation this morning, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm just going to set the ball rolling. Can I share slides? A few?
Yes, please.
You need to give me permission. It's currently disabled. So, but essentially, what I'll be speaking to would be to talk about, introduce the concepts of mental health, mental illness, the shame and stigma associated with it, and how that impacts on the workplace. So thank you, I can share now. I hope you can see my slides.
Yes,
right.
we can. Yes.
Right, thank you. So I'm going to focus on prioritizing mental health. And apart from being a psychiatrist, I'm also very active in the social media space to promote awareness about mental illness and combat shame and stigma via an NGO called Asibor Foundation. And then Asibor Consulting provides EAP services for organizations. So essentially, we'll go through this outline, basic concepts of mental health, and I will focus 70% of my time on this because I think this is the foundation. We have enough expertise in the room and among the panelists to address issues of mental health in the workplace, preventing burnout, creating a workplace mental health strategy. We can't cram all of this into 15 minutes. So I'm going to focus my time speaking about the concepts of mental health and shame and stigma around mental health in the workplace. So these are the objectives, and eliminate stigma around mental health in the workplace, identify signs indicating burnout. We'll hopefully come back to this during the comments, as well as creating a workplace mental health strategy to support employees' mental health and resilience. Let me start by reminding us that the WHO's definition of health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So if you look at it from this perspective, these three components, so health is like a triad, right? That has three legs, or a tripod stool. Three legs, one leg is physical health, the second leg is mental well-being, and the third leg is social well-being. And it's critical to appreciate that these three components of health are very closely interwoven, interconnected, and they influence one another. For instance, if I have a diagnosis of cancer today, and I'm told that this cancer has already spread and I have maximum 6 months to live, that's a physical disorder. That's a physical diagnosis, right? You wouldn't imagine that I'll go and do Thanksgiving at that news, okay? Chances are more that I will be depressed, I'll be unhappy, miserable with the situation, and suddenly all my plans come crashing down and I have to adjust to having just 6 months to live. So even though that's a physical diagnosis, it's a physical illness, I'm very likely to develop anxiety and depression, and that will be the mental health complication of the physical diagnosis that I have. And very quickly, I may run into bankruptcy because I have to pay for cancer treatment, chemotherapy, surgeries, and all of that may not be covered by my insurance. Okay, so very quickly, I may run into financial bankruptcy, and that will be social complications of the diagnosis. So anywhere you start from, the outcome is the same. Let's say we start from social. You work in an organization that is very toxic, has a toxic work culture, and every day you are going to the office, your heart is beating fast, you are unsure what's going to happen in the office today. That is a social problem. Or you're in a relationship that is toxic and abusive, or a marriage that is unfriendly and hostile. Now, these are social issues, but these social issues can cause you to develop high blood pressure, and that will be a physical complication of that social situation you find yourself in. You may also develop anxiety and depression, or become even suicidal, and those will be mental health complications of the social situations that you find yourself within, either at work or at home or in your relationship. So the key message I'm trying to pass across here is that the three components of health as defined by WHO, physical, mental, and social well-being, are very closely intertwined, and they influence one another. They are not mutually exclusive. So it's very important for us to appreciate that. Let's now focus specifically on mental health. WHO defines mental health as the ability to fulfill 4 roles successfully. The first role is to fulfill your unique potentials. There are billions of people on this planet, but each human being is unique and different from every other human being. And don't take my word for it, even identical twins have different fingerprints. And that's why we use fingerprints in forensic medicine, forensic science. So when you go to the bank, you want to withdraw, I can do plastic surgery and look like Loretta, or I can impersonate Winfred, okay, and look exactly like her and become female through plastic surgery. And then I go to the bank and say, oh, I'm Winfred Obama and I want to withdraw money. and they look at me and look at the picture on the screen. Apologies, Winfrey, I can see you on my videos. I'm just using as an example, right? So, and then I say, oh, I want to withdraw the $1 trillion in her accounts. And they say, okay, they look at the picture and look at me and look like it's the same person. But the second layer of authentication, they will then say, biometric, come and put your finger, and they won't tell me which finger. So that's where the cat will be let out of the bag, right? So fingerprints is a unique identifier that even identical twins have different fingerprints. No two human beings from time immemorial will have the same fingerprint. So we are all unique. So as unique as we all are, how can we fulfill our different potentials? You need to enjoy good mental health to be able to do so. The second attribute of good mental health is the ability to cope with the normal stress of day-to-day living. Normal stress, please underline normal stress. What that means is, regardless of the size of your bank account or your position in any organization, level of education, you are going to have to deal with stress every day in your life. The nature of the stress only varies from person A to person B to person C to person D, right? So how do you cope with your unique stressors in your life, in your relationships, in your workplace? You need to enjoy good mental health to be able to cope with the normal stress in your life. The third attribute, excuse me, the third attribute of good mental health is the ability to work productively. You see, this is mental health in the workplace coming in prominently here. The ability to work productively. If you're not enjoying good mental health, your attention will be impaired, your concentration, your ability, your drive, your motivation, your energy levels to see any set of targets, to see it through, will be impaired negatively, and you will not be able to do so. Your productivity will nosedive, and so on and so forth. And the last attribute is to participate meaningfully in the community, in your workplace, your relationship with your colleagues, with your family members, with your neighbors, and so on and so forth. So the reason why these basics are very important is when we talk about mental health in the workplace, some people expect, it's when someone comes to work and is dressed inappropriately or is behaving irrationally and so on. No, it may actually be very subtle. It may be that this individual's interpersonal relationship become very horrible and HR takes an interest, or the person's productivity suddenly nosedives. And then you see that the person is actively struggling to cope with everyday stressors in their life or in the office, or they are performing significantly below their potential. This may be the only red flags you will see that may hint you to the possibility of a mental health challenge in an individual in the workplace. So when we talk about mental well-being, there is positive mental health and there is mental illness. So because some people, once they hear mental, they automatically assume it means illness. So mental is just part of health. The same way you can aspire for optimal physical health by going to the gym, watching your diet and all of that. It's the same manner that we should aim to promote positive mental well-being, right? And avoid mental illness. And it's important for me to clarify again that our brain controls everything we do. Our thinking, behavior, emotions, memory, intelligence, all of these functions are controlled by the brain. And this brain operates in two major ways, electrical as well as using chemicals. Abnormalities of the level of brain chemicals in the brain is what gives us mental health challenges. For those of us that are Nigerians, this is very contrary to what African Magic portrays of mental illness. According to African Magic, if I develop mental illness, it will be because Loretta says that Dr. Malik that talks too much. This is for you, and sends a missile at 2 a.m., blows something that flies through the air, lands on me, and suddenly I start undressing and start misbehaving. And the next scene will show me in the market, sitting on the floor with a basket on my head, eating bread. And the unfortunate aspect of this Nollywood narrative is that if, according to that narrative, if I'm taken to the hospital, the doctors and nurses will say, we've done all the tests, we did not see anything, or don't you have elders in your family? Implying that, you should go traditional or spiritual. And true to type, if they then take me to a pastor, I'll get well. Take me to an imam or a Muslim cleric, I'll get well. Take me to Babalawo, I'll get well, traditional healer. But take me to a doctor, the doctors and nurses who've done all the tests will not see anything. So that does a great disservice to mental health awareness because it pushes the narrative that it is not a medical problem, it is a spiritual problem. And if you go to a hospital, you will never get treatment. And that is a great disservice. So important to appreciate that between mental health and mental illness is a spectrum. All of us are on that spectrum. Nobody is 100% mentally healthy and nobody is at 0%. All of us are on the spectrum. The same way, if I say physical health now, is there anyone in this meeting that is 100% physically healthy? The answer is no. Some of us use glasses because our vision is not 100% optimal. Some of us have ulcers, some of us have migraine. Nobody is 100% physically healthy at any point in time. Nobody is also 100% mentally healthy. The reality is we are all at various points along this continuum, right? When we fall below 50%, we may need professional support at that time. Otherwise, we are all just getting along. So mental health occurs across the lifespan. I'm going to speed up. I intentionally decided to focus on the basic concepts because I think that is fundamental to the discussions to come. So, but I will round up very quickly because of time. So, different types of mental illnesses. They are not, mental illness is not one condition. It can be mild like anxiety, can be depression, can be, phobias, psychotic illnesses, and so on. And it also occurs across the lifespan. Children can have things like autism, like intellectual disability, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and so on. And then in adulthood, we can have depression, psychosis, and so on. Women specifically during pregnancy and after delivery may have postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis because of the hormonal changes associated with pregnancy and delivery. Remember that hormones are also chemicals and they also influence our mood and our thinking and behavior. Then in the elderly, we can have problems such as dementia. So all of this can occur. They are also very common. WHO says 1 in every 4 persons at risk of having a mental illness at some point in time in their lifetime. So every family has at least a father, mother, and 2 children. So what that means is every family has a risk of at least one family member experiencing a mental health problem. For Nigeria's population, that's about 50 million. Out of 1/4 of our population of 200 million will give us 50 million. So let me ask this question. Is it reasonable to expect, therefore, that in a work environment, any work environment, once you have more than 4 employees, is it reasonable to expect that none will experience a mental health challenge at some point? Of course, the answer is no. It's not really reasonable. We should expect that in every group of human beings, once you have more than 4 people, some may be at risk of developing mental health issues. So what about shame and stigma? We should work to reduce shame, stigma, and discrimination because it's mental illness is hugely stigmatized. But if you break down stigma, there are 3 major problems with stigma. One is problem of lack of knowledge, and that's ignorance. And for those of us who are Nigerians, remember there was a time in this country when twins were being killed as evil children before a certain Mary Slessor, right? Now, is anybody still killing twins as evil children? No. What's the difference? We now know better, so we are doing better. Second example, when we didn't understand genotype, we were talking of, so we didn't understand what sickle cell disease was all about. So we were talking of Obanje and Abiku as evil children coming to torment their parents. They were very sickly, then they'll die, then they'll come back to life and be very sickly, then they die again. But we didn't know that the parents had AS, and whenever they have a child that's SS, the child will be very sickly and they may die, and then they have another child. So when they finally succeed in having a child that's AS, they say, oh, the gods have accepted our sacrifice. And that's why this one has survived. But now that we understand genotype better, is anybody still talking about Obanje and Abiku? No. Why? We know better. So now we are doing better. So we are hoping to get to a situation where we understand mental health better in the workplace, in our family, in our societies, so that we do better and we stop shaming and stigmatizing people for having mental health. So that's the first component of stigma, lack of knowledge, ignorance. The second component of stigma is prejudice, having a negative perception or attitude towards people with a particular trait, in this case, mental illness. Okay, and we want to correct that and change it to a positive attitude. The third aspect is the behavioral component, where you actively discriminate against someone because a person has mental health challenge, and we need to also correct that and behave better. The Asido Foundation launched a campaign in 2020, Unashamed campaign, to promote no shame or stigma around mental illness. What are the challenges of shame and stigma in the workplace? It drives it underground, makes it hidden. And when it festers, productivity is going to decline in the workplace. And the work environment will be miserable, hostile, and unfriendly, leading to lost productivity, which causes huge financial losses to the organization. So the last component here is mental health in the workplace. And I'm just going to touch upon this. We'll discuss this more during the panel discussions. It should be clear that health, I'm reiterating this again for emphasis, health is not just physical health. Health is physical, mental, and social well-being. So most workplaces, they say, oh, we have a HMO that caters to your physical health. If you have any problem, go to a HMO. But what does that do? It focuses only, almost exclusively, on physical health conditions alone. So that is 33.3% of health as defined by WHO. What happens to mental health? What happens to social well-being of your employees? Neglected. And Loretta already stole my thunder by starting with the $1 trillion thing. So annual lost productivity costs from mental health issues globally. It's a mind-boggling $1 trillion according to WHO. In the US alone, it's estimated to range from 76 to 105 billion per annum. So it should be a no-brainer that a happy and motivated employee will be a more productive asset than a miserable, disgruntled, mentally unwell employee. The commonest conditions are depression and anxiety. So what can we do? Developing a strategy is not something we can discuss in a few minutes, but every organization should look to provide employee assistance programs to cover for mental and social well-being of your employees. It's defined as an employer-sponsored service designed for personal or family problems, such as mental health, substance abuse, addictions, marital problems, parenting problems, emotional problems, financial or legal problems, okay? So it's a confidential workplace service that employers pay for, and it is free to employees. So in conclusion, health is not just about physical well-being, but also about mental and social well-being. Our mental health is in our hands. There are many things we can do. We'll talk about that. Hopefully we will have time during the panel discussions. When we go through stress, remember the definition of mental health. Coping with normal stress is one of them. So you can't avoid stress, but coping with them has to do with our mindset. And if you need help for emotional problems, please go for it. Let's promote a workplace where people are comfortable to discuss their emotional well-being, to discuss their mental health challenges, where they know that they will get support. Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very insightful session. It was short, but it was overpacked. And in the comment section, Ms. Maureen Carroll has been, would I say, applauding everything that you've been saying, and also like the same sentiments I share. In her comment here, she said, I most especially love the spotlight on media misrepresentation of mental illness, notably Nollywood films. We must change the narrative so that media enlightens rather than worsens mindsets. Cultural shift in perspectives definitely needs to be addressed. As the saying goes, ignorance is a disease. So yes, we have a lot of work to do, and I've always believed that education, that the schools and media have a role to play when it comes to culture shifts, mindset shifts in society. So thank you very, very much for that fantastic keynotes that you gave. And I believe that this is going to trigger a lot of conversations once the panel session opens up. So we're moving on to the panel session, and to invite Ambassador Sonia to speak first, but however, one of our facilitators would have to leave almost immediately at 11. So I just want to ask for your permission. I would be inviting Mr. Stephen Clark to share his contributions, and then we move the floor over to you, Ma. So I'd like to invite Mr. Stephen Clark.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Excellent.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Well, my name is Stephen Clark. Pretty much everybody calls me Steve. I'm joining you from France, where I lived for the last 10 years. I'm married with 2 children. Now, that's the context of my family, which I know is very important in Nigerian culture, and it's also very important to me. I'm struggling to find the words to follow Dr. Jabril's presentation. I think we have all attended a whole day seminar on mental health in 15 minutes. So, and that's worth 100,000 naira, I'm sure of it at the very least. So I hope you feel you got value for money, even if we stop right here. Anyway, I feel very humbled by the presentation, and thank you for that. It struck a chord with my experiences. I've had a lifetime of managing projects around the world, usually in very stressful contexts. So I've been responsible for teams of people who are under pressure. And I recognize what Dr. Jabril has just shared. Just in 5 minutes, my observations as a response. I'm an optimistic person. I wake up every morning. I think, here is a new day. Let's go. Let's see what opportunities there are. And it took me nearly 50 years to understand that not everybody is like that. That some people wake up in the morning and find that from the minute they get up, life is a struggle. And so for the workplace and how we work in teams, understanding the people around us is crucial. And we talked about shame and stigma. And every time we find in ourselves a judgment about one of our work colleagues, their performance, their articulation, their behavior, let's just ask, what might be behind that reaction, that response? We don't know what is going on in their life. So that's number one takeaway. Think about what might be behind the behaviors of our colleagues. Now, there are cultural differences behind mental health and approaches to mental health, but we're all human beings and we're all slightly different. And here in France, for example, let me just say, if I grew up in the United Kingdom, my home country, and it was very unusual to hear of a child going to see a psychiatrist. In fact, if somebody sent their child to a psychiatrist, they would keep it very quiet. They would not share that with their wider family and friends. Here in France, children go to the psychiatrists very often, all the time. When they have a behavior problem, a mother or a father will quite easily share that their child has gone to see a psychiatrist. And I think that is a great thing, because we all need help when we have trouble. It doesn't matter what age we are. And understanding that and respecting that. And I think Dr. Jabril covered this, that it doesn't matter about our background, our age, our gender, our sexuality, our whatever it is, how tall we are. We all have needs in the mental health era, 1 in 4 people during their lifetime. And although I'm an optimistic person, I can share with you that I have experienced one period of depression, and it was very black, very difficult, very hard for me. But just in conclusion, I'm sure my 5 minutes is up. This seminar was incredibly ambitious to talk about prioritizing mental health in one session. So my second takeaway, if you're in business, in an organization, a charity, a public sector group, or even in your family or in your friendship group, start talking about mental health. Now, as a small step to begin with, maybe forget about the mental health strategy. That needs to come and will come. But first of all, just start talking about it with the people around you and the people you work with, your family and friends. And you'll find that things will begin to get better. I have one last thing to say, which is a quote from Prince Harry, the Queen's grandson. Some of you know he lives in America now. And he said this: once you start talking about mental health, you realize that you are part of a very large club, a very large group of people. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Dr. Olasode, for allowing me to contribute. I'll leave it there because otherwise we'll all be going home late. But I've really enjoyed taking part this morning. Thank you so much. I can stay for 5 or 10 minutes more if need be. But thank you. Back to you, Loretta.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen, for sharing your contributions and your take on from the conversation so far. Unfortunately, you'll not be around to take some questions from us, but it's fine. You dropped some things. And one thing I'm taking away from what you said is we all need help when we're in trouble, irrespective of your age, your status, the category at work, you're a boss, you're a middleman, a janitor, you need help, and you should be able to comfortably talk about it or ask for it. So thank you very, very much, sir. So I hope that we're able to meet your next engagement in time, sir. Thank you. So I'd like to invite Ambassador Sonia Alana, who is an emotional intelligence expert and etiquette coach, to also share her contributions on the conversation.
Thank you very much, Loretta, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, I am Sonia Alana. I am a widow, mother of 3 children, grandmother of 1. I have worked in the public and private sector, so I have vast experience. And I'm a Toastmaster, and yes, so I'm used to being with people, around people, managing people, and of course, managing myself. Now, what is mental health and what does it mean to me? And what are my experiences? And there are many and they are vast. Of course, having been a leader for many years in my professional life, in my career, I was a director I retired as a director in the civil service, and then I moved over to the private sector, and I was the deputy general manager. So I had huge teams. And I remember there's a particular lady, and she appeared to be very loud, noisy. By the time she'd come to work in the morning, from the lift, you'd know she was coming. Either you'd hear her shoes, or you'd hear her over loud greetings, or you'd hear one thing or the other. And I thought, what is it with this lady? Why is she, so noisy, no decorum, no, and being part of my team, it was just odd. But then something interesting happened. We went for an away day, and we went away, and that's my whole team. And we started talking about things that people didn't know about us and all of that. So it just so happened that she was suffering from a rejection syndrome. Her father had left them, had left the family, the mother and all of them. And even she remembered one time she and her sister went to the father to beg for school fees, and they were crying, kneeling down, begging the father, and the father pushed them away. And she went away with a very severely damaged emotional state, and which translated into her day-to-day, her day-to-day behavior. So she was always looking for validation. At the time, initially, I didn't understand it. I just thought she's just so loud. What is it? She always know that people always want to be noticed and things like that. So I kept saying, what is it? What is it? So, so it stemmed from that. So my opening, with her is to say that very often we don't recognize when somebody has a mental health issue. We don't recognize it. And even when we go to the doctor, I must, say, I remember one time I lost a very close friend, and I was in a terrible state, and I was slipping into depression. I went to the doctor and I told him that I wasn't just feeling good, I was feeling down and all that. And the first thing he said, when did you test for malaria last? So when the test for malaria last, I don't know. He said, well, let's do a test for malaria, you know. So I mean, it didn't even occur to him that I might have mental issues. And I told him that I had lost a friend, that I wasn't feeling bad, and I didn't seem to be able to get over it, and I wanted like help. And he said, okay, that maybe he'll give me some vitamins, you know, some multivite, and so. And you know, you think that as a medical practitioner, he might be more aware. And I think there is still a lot of awareness to be created, both in the medical field and you know, otherwise. Now, in the workplace, I think the first thing that we should do is to actually expose people to trainings and to presentations such as the one we just heard from Dr. Chibril. I think it would be an eye-opener. And I think it is still largely missing. People have no idea how to recognize it and then how to deal with it. It's one thing to recognize it, it's another thing to deal with it. Now, another story. My own sister, I have an elder sister, and she seemed to be absolutely cantankerous. Somebody who wouldn't get on with anybody, everywhere she'd go, she'd make trouble. And, you know, we just thought that she was, you know, bad-tempered. And everybody would now just keep away from her and just leave her. She's always bad-tempered. And then one day, she disappeared without a trace. We went to the police, we went to DSS, we went to the media and everything, no trace of her. She had disappeared. And what was it? It was a case of mental illness. Nobody had recognized it. So sometimes when you see somebody that just appears to be bad-tempered or different from us, I think Stephen Clark, you know, just alluded to that we're all a little bit different. And for us, different, it makes us always quickly suspicious. Oh, it's different from us, leave her alone. Different from us, forget about her. Hey, that's how she always is. That's how he always behaves. Mental illness, pure and simple. You know, to the glory of God, many, many months later, she showed up. And of course, she was taken straight to the psychiatric hospital where she stayed for some time. She's been discharged now. She's on medication. She's being monitored. She's fine. But the thing is, again, now the stigma. Oh, so we think that when somebody is mentally ill, he's mad, or he needs to be avoided, or needs to be, you know, so that's stigma. And, you know, she used to work somewhere. That's my elder sister. She used to work, you know, in a ministry in River State. And when she wanted to go back, they would say, no, we don't want her, don't want her. She's funny, she's weird, she's whatever. Nobody recognized the fact that she was mentally ill. You know, and then I would also like to talk about myself. You know, there are many things, and I think, honestly, Dr. Chibril, he really made an excellent expose. Things happen, life happens. I found myself a widow. I found myself with 3 children, no help whatsoever, financially, emotionally. You know, by the time people have finished paying their condolence visits and the crowd thins out, absolutely, there was silence. My in-laws didn't ask about the children because God forbid that maybe I will ask them that for school fees. Nobody asked for about anything. So I found myself alone. And I found myself having to cope. So I just had to cope, even emotionally. Now people always say, oh, she's a strong woman, she's strong, she's very strong, she's very strong. But hello, do you know what I could have done with some support? And again, I think it is because people just don't know. Now I'm a career woman. So I would go to the office and I was expected to perform. And on top of that, there is the office stress and the office politics. And some people now felt, you know, I had a particular boss, I think he was intimidated by me or something. So I always felt he had something to prove. And he made my life difficult. And, you know, I tried to deal with the stress. I tried to deal with it by looking at other things and whatever. But you know what? It affected my health. And I came away with high blood pressure. Again, because it wasn't recognized. And I realized that I had mental health challenges. So I think that basically we need to be more aware across spectrum, just more aware. Not that when I go to the doctor, you ask me when they are treated for malaria last. You know, and I've complained to doctors. I said, hey, can you just listen? They just don't seem to even listen to the patient. Everything is, because we are in an endemic area, it must be malaria. You know, so it's something that, again, as I said, something we should look at across spectrum and look at it in depth. If somebody has a behavioral, you know, challenge, maybe you see the person is not reading his emails, he's not answering calls, he's acting strange, don't just dismiss him or her as a strange person. Can you sit down with him and say, hey, can we talk? I mean, just talk to me, talk to me. You know, nobody ever asked me, Sonia, how are you feeling? Really, I mean, how are you feeling? Even family, you know, and I have an elder brother who's a medical doctor as well. And I complained. He never called me to say, Sonia, how are you? I mean, how are you really? I mean, how are you coping? What are your thoughts? You know, what are your plans? How do you feel? What's your emotional state like? We don't ask that. It's how are you? Fine, thank you. And we go on to the next. So it's something I think we need to really very carefully look at, and it will help us a great deal. And again, I had a boss, you know, that was when I was in the private sector. I had a boss, very accomplished, you know, and if I mention his name, everybody will know him. But he too had a funny syndrome. He was the child of a cook, and he never seemed to be able to shed the fact that he grew up in the boys' quarters. So he always felt he had something to prove. He had something to prove, and he was being ridiculous. You know, when I say ridiculous, I mean, when we would travel, he would buy things in excess. And when we would tell him, sir, you already have this thing. He said, there, where, whatever. He didn't care. He was just accumulating things. It's a form of mental illness. So we need to just recognize it. It's all around us. And truly, nobody is sound. Just as, I don't know whether it was Dr. Chipotle that said it or Dr. Stephen Clark. It's, you know, all of us are affected one way or the other to some degree. But we can, just like it depends on whether you have a headache or you have a migraine, it can be treated. So I think I'll end there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Ma, for sharing your experience. I must say I was having goosebumps as I was hearing your story and how, you know, most of us don't even, you know, ask questions or even mean the questions that we ask. We not really want to hear the details, you know, after those questions that we asked. You asked a very great story, and I already have a question to that which I would want to throw to you and to Dr. Jibril. But before then, I would like to take Ms. Morinkar's contributions as well. Good morning, Ma. If you're speaking, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, I have my son here who is helping me with the lighting. So I'm saying to him that I think I'm going to prefer the natural light. So we'll see how it goes when I'm spotlighted. Thank you. Thank you. I think I like this better than the lights that he was going to give me. So yes, I'll just come in now. You know, like Dr. Clark said earlier, Dr. Jibril, honestly, you've done a fantastic job. And, you know, it makes the things I'm going to be talking about quite easy to say, because I'm just going to, you know, follow on from that thread that you have fantastically woven. And I'm going to start with a personal story. I left a managerial position at some point in my life because it was a toxic work situation. And Dr. Jibril mentioned about working in a toxic work situation. And at the time, you know, it had gotten to a place where I was even invited to become a partner. It was a private business. It was doing well. And I got into a place where I was even invited to be a partner to the business. So it wasn't even just because I was a marketing manager. It had prospects, but I had to step down from those prospects because it was impacting my life negatively. The work culture, you know, the pressure that it was putting on me was not only affecting me as an individual, but it was affecting my family. I had 2 young children, a devoted husband, but the work demand and the style of leadership was so erratic that I knew that I would rather go and work in McDonald's. I live in the UK. I would rather be unemployed and be on the dole than to continue working in that workplace, because the environment was just not healthy for my mental well-being. And so coming from that perspective, you know, I'm a leadership coach. A lot of the things that I do is about how leaders enable their employees to give their optimal in the workplace. And as we have heard, social issues, physical issues, they impact our mental well-being. And this is what organizations need to become aware of. And I am trusting that all the MDs and all the leaders that are represented on this panel today or on this presentation today, that this will not just be a tick box exercise, but that we will actually take home workable nuggets, workable points, so that we begin to look into our organizations and begin to ask questions. How do I enable my employees? How do I enable my team members? It is so important. If I can leave a prospective, as it were, position and go at, do you know what? I changed from being in the corporate world into the charity sector because of this. So you can imagine, not only did I step down, I also changed, the sector that I worked in, because I felt like as a mother with young children, I need a workplace that is sympathetic, that is empathic towards my situation, rather than, a place where it's all about, the money that is coming into the organization. And I was making the organization serious money, but I had to turn my back on it. And so, like I said, I am hoping that leaders on this platform today will begin to listen. Dr. Jibril said something when we were talking about what we want to take from here. And he said he was looking forward to honest conversations. I hope that as individuals, we will be honest within ourselves, because, sometimes we may know the truth, but we may deny it on the inside. My hope is that we will all go home and take and look deeply. First of all, as an individual, are you putting your mental health before what you can gain? Some of us, like I said, I had to step down. That's my personal story. It didn't matter how much my pay packet was. What was happening here was more important. What about you as an individual? Are you just, plodding on because, I need to put food on the table? If you die, that organization will continue. And they may raise a few funds for you and your family. That will be the end of it. My challenge to us as an individual is put your mental health before money. Put it before position. Put it before any other thing. Think deeply about yourself and then think about your family. When managers call meetings at, ungodly hours, I will put it, you have to think about your staff. How does it go down with them as a person? Many marriages have broken because of horrible work cultures. The place that I left, one of the things will be, we were not told before that we would have meetings after work, and you just take it for granted. A married woman, you just take it for granted that I'm going to be available for meetings after 5 o'clock or after 6 p.m. It's uncalled for. What were we doing between the 9 to 5 that is my prescribed hours of work? That is a challenge that I'm throwing to leaders here today. As a human resource person, advising leaders, that is why it's called human. It's not machine resource. It's called human resources. We are dealing with human beings here, human beings that have social lives, human beings that have health and well-being to think about. And so I am addressing leaders on this platform. Please, 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 let us think about the well-being of the people who work with us. Don't make unnecessary and unkind demands on people. It's not about the bottom line all the time. It's about the well-being of your people, because really people are your assets. Maybe some people see their human resource as liabilities. They are your greatest assets. And you know what? Social media has even made it that The power has been given to the people now. That is why companies are also jostling to be, oh, we want to be in part of, you know, there's the 100 companies that most people want to work with. Companies are already jostling to have a position, to have a place on that list. And so you just find out that you will not have the best of the best, the creme de la creme of employees, if your workplace has a reputation of, you know, being a slave driver. Build an enabling work environment. I also, you know, I trained as a PR, and one of the places, and I'm going to be rounding up with this, one of the places when I went for my work experience, I made up my mind, even though I got a redundancy to go and study PR, and I had high hopes, I ran away from that industry. Why? Because of the after work social culture. When I saw that it was taken for granted that if you're going to move up in the world of PR, this is the United Kingdom that I'm talking about. I know it was even worse in Nigeria. I'm talking about early 90s now. So you may want to place my age or whatever. I'm not a spring chicken. But what I'm trying to say was, it was like, if you don't stay to go to the pub afterwards, you've already put a lead on your future in that company. And I just looked at it, I'm like, no way, I am not going to stay here. It doesn't matter what you're going to offer me. My life is more important than whatever position you want to give me in this place. So I want everybody, in rounding up, please, your life is very important. Your family is very important. We're talking about work-life balance. Put a balance to your work life. Work is not everything. Yes, we need money or whatever, but honestly, put your priorities life. And put your priorities right. Your life is very important. And you know what, as an individual, look at yourself. You are an asset. Don't let anybody downplay you. Don't let anybody think, oh, if you don't do this, please look into yourself. You see, you're going to be addressed the way you allow people to. Don't give people permission to push you around. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very, very, very much, Ma, for your contributions. Thank you. You spoke, they said the truth is bitter, and it was a bitter pill that you served everyone here. And I want to say thank you so much for sharing that. And before I open the floor to take questions, please, I know that everyone that has been listening, you have questions rolling in your mind right now. You have experiences or comments you'd like to share in the room, please, you can click on the reaction tab, or you can drop them in the comment section. But before I take them, our GMD is here now, and I would like him to share his comments before I open up the floor for questions. Good morning, Dr. Ololaside. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Loretta. I'm actually just going to just offer my thanks really to Dr. Jibril Abdul Malik, my good friend, sister, colleague, Ambassador Sonia. Very last minute I text you. I know that there's so much that we need to share on this. Stephen Clark, my other colleague, I know he said he had to rush off. Fantastic. Maureen, I know want to get you to start, I can't get you to stop. It's just fantastic. And one of the things that I learned a lot from this, even though I've been involved in health and care in the UK, as some of you know, for many years, I've run mental health institutions, organizations, homes, and obviously industries. But I just listened to everyone from Dr. Jibril, Steve, Ambassador Alana, and what Maureen was just saying. And I'm just putting myself in a different context and thinking there is a lot that we need to air in this. There needs to be a lot of conversation, a lot of awareness. So that danger of ignorance that makes people not understand the impact. And I like the illustration bringing in Mary Slessor and the twins of those days, and the stigma around sickle cells in those days, and now mental health, and how we could integrate the thinking into the minds of leaders, as Mrs. Maureen Carey was just saying, and individuals to take responsibilities and institution. And all I just want to say is, please, when the floor is open, I would like as many more people to comment and to offer their thoughts, because my plan now is to just listening to this. When Loretta said, suggested to me, asked me to approve this as a next webinar, as a webinar for this month, I said this is an important topic. But hearing what people are saying now, I think is even more important. So my intention is to go to the head of service later on next week and say, you need to take responsibility for the mental health of your workforce. And we would offer this as another free roundtable session for all the permanent secretaries and directors of human resources in the public service, and then go to the Institute of Directors and the ICC, Chamber of Commerce in Lagos, and say we need to offer this to all the MDs and DHRs in the private sector. And if you don't mind, I know I snatched you away from your different visit time. Loretta will contact you again once we get these dates. In the future, there will be a lot more notice, all of you on the platform, and a lot more. The people need to take responsibility and act. And those people, some of you are online this morning, more people need to be online, and we need to promote that. So that's all I'm saying, just say thank you. And the topic is not prioritizing. I think Steve was right. It's so huge and ambitious to prioritize now. We need to understand, and we need to recognize the impact, understand the issues in our workforce, in every individual for that matter, and the impact in what we do, in how we shape culture and leadership. So thank you so much. Please do open the floor and let's hear some more comment, Loretta. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing with us, and the thought of taking this up even to the public sector leader, the office of the head of civil service, and because someone in the comments has already said, wow, doctor, that's a great initiative, so that more persons can learn about this and we can begin to have honest conversation. And like Ambassador Sonia said, everybody should be knowledgeable about this across spectrums, from doctors, support specialists to laymen. Everyone should understand this concept and how we can look out for each other. So while I expect questions and comments, I said I had a question that I wanted to direct towards Ambassador Lana and Dr. Jibril, and that's a question about listening. Ambassador Sonia shared that after she lost her husband, she had to come to work and people just expected her to deliver. She was struggling, but nobody was seeing, or maybe they were seeing and choosing not to do anything. So how can leaders, how can supervisors, team leads, how can we listen better to our teammates or our employees? How do we listen better? So I would like to hear from you first, Dr. Jibril.
Right, thank you very much. I think listening to people stems from having a genuine love and concern. You need to care for someone, right? And if you're in the same workspace, but you don't even exchange pleasantries and so on, the day you now see a frown on their face, you're not going to go across and say, why are you frowning today? You don't have any relationship whatsoever. So you need to break the ice, as Yorubas would say, you pour water on the floor first, make the ground wet and receptive. So you need to have a relationship with people that you work with, your family members, and so that way you get to know them over time. Human beings are like an onion. You peel multiple layers. You can't meet someone in 5 minutes and say, oh, I know this person, right? Over time, as you build a relationship, you get to understand them more over time gradually. So you need to build a relationship. Then when you have a relationship, be willing to spend 5 minutes to give them a listening ear. The thing is, most people say, oh, I'm not a trained counselor, I'm not a psychologist, I don't know how to do this. You don't need any training to listen. Most people who survive suicide when they are interviewed, there's a qualitative study of people who have survived, who have attempted suicide but failed, thank God. So they are alive. And most of them have said that what pushed them to the brink was feeling like they were invisible. Nobody could see the pain they were going through. Even though they had family, they had colleagues at work, it was like they were suffering alone, as if they were invisible and everybody, the world was just passing them by. And nobody paid them any attention. And they felt, well, if nobody is even aware that I exist or that I'm in such pain, then nobody will really miss me if I'm no longer here. So we need to understand that simply showing that you care, I'm here for you. I notice that these days your face is a bit long, you usually are bubbly and smiling. Is there a problem? I'm here to help. Even if they say, no, I'm fine. Leave a window of opportunity. Tell them, well, if you don't want to talk about it now, if you change your mind tomorrow or at any time, I will always be here. I want to listen. I want to support you because I care about you, right? So that is much more important than gold or the credits in their account and all of that. So please let us all go the extra mile. It's so very easy to be self-absorbed in only your have tunnel vision for your targets, your life, your priorities, and be oblivious to the world around you, including our family members, our spouses, our children. We have, family therapy is part of what we do. And increasingly, we are having family spouses that are just roommates. Everybody just comes in, sleep, wake up, go out. You have no intimacy in terms of sharing what's going on in your life, what are your worries, what are your concerns, and then that's not having a family. So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for sharing. Yes, we should leave, like Winifred just dropped in the comment section, leave a window of opportunity to show care. And this really boils down to leaders. So if you're open, what can make people share is when you yourself, you're open and you're really, your team can see that you're genuine when you ask questions. And on a normal day, you say hello, you are approachable, and they can share with you. And they also know that they can get your support, even in the sense of, or not just sharing the news around in the office in a way that would be uncomfortable for them, but they know that they can trust you enough with the information that they're sharing. Thank you, sir. Ambassador Sonia, I'd also like you to hear your views on the question as well.
Okay, thank you. I think my network is a bit unstable, but let me attempt. Yes, I think it all boils down to leadership, really, and the hallmark of good leadership, and not being too officious to overlook the humanity in your team and even in yourself. I remember there was one of my colleagues, one of my team members, she came to work one day and I saw a gash across her chin. So I asked her, I said, what happened to your chin? And she said, oh, that she was working in the kitchen. She was holding a sharp object and something just, caught her. And I thought, oh, okay, And then one morning I came to the office and normally as I come in, my secretary comes in with me and, asks about things for the day. And then she came in with my secretary. So my secretary looked at her and was, she was like, allow madam to settle down. What is it? And she just stood there. So I said, okay, excuse us. So I said, please sit down. I said, what's the matter? And she just burst into tears. And she said, my marriage is not working. That my husband has been beating me. Do I remember when I asked her about the gash across her chin? It was her husband that had beaten her with a belt buckle. And so, so if I hadn't really asked her in the first place, I'd have just ignored it. Okay, she has a scratch on her chin or something. We would never have gotten to that conversation. So it's important that we are not over officious, and that remember that we are human beings, and that we hold that respect from one human being to the other, first and foremost. Because if my staff is not happy, they can't perform optimally. Yeah, and if my staff is not comfortable. So let us always look, as Dr. Jibril said, is somebody coming with a long face that is normally bubbly and smiley? Is somebody looking a little bit upset or something? Be sensitive. Let's just be sensitive to the feelings of others. And, there's a fine line between being intrusive and just, leaving the door open. But just ask leading questions. And if the person responds, it's all well and good. But if the person clams up, just let them know that you're always there for them, should the need arise. So it's important for leaders to actually, notice their staff, because many of them, they don't even notice. They said, oh, somebody's not smiling. They say, really, I didn't even notice that. Who's looking at their face? That kind of a thing. No, please look at their faces.
Yeah.
Because we are a team.
Yes, Ma, I totally agree with your comment there. I think that some of these comments that we make, even as leaders, also show how caring we are or approachable we can be. So even in normal settings, or when we're just joking and laughing together, and a leader makes comments like, I don't look at people's faces, I don't care. Those are some of the ways that your team can know that, oh, I can't exactly share with my boss, right? I can't say these things to them. So it's also very important that we watch our language with our team. I have a question that I would like to direct to Mrs. Maureen Cairo. Since she's, while a leadership coach as well, she's also has experience in human resource. So with the way the workplace is going, we are having right now a mixture of different generations, from baby boomers to Gen Zs to millennials. And the last couple of weeks, we've had what we say shades being thrown at millennials as being lazy, or as being different things that have been used to. They're not so nice to describe Gen Zs. But I would like to ask, like, how can, what do you think their different needs are, and how do you think leaders of organizations can cater for them? Because for the baby boomers, for example, they may have experienced a workplace where you can't express, like, you just keep working irrespective of what is thrown at you or whatever. We just feel that, oh, we just need to keep working. We have bills to pay. You need to grow a thick skin, this whole thick skin thing. And then, but for Gen Zs and some millennials, they don't think that way. So how can you, as a leader or as an HR representative, be able to cater to the needs of these persons and create a culture where everyone can feel comfortable enough to share and not feel like, oh, I'm the weak generation or I'm the too strong generation, that sort of thing? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that question, especially being a mother of millennials and Gen Z myself. So you can imagine, I have, firsthand experience leading them in my home, not to talk about, in the workplace. But I think it really boils down to education. Every generation is different. I mean, on a personal level, a lot of us will talk about our parents and we say, oh, in their generation, or when we're bringing up our children, we're talking to our children, we'll say, oh, if you were in my generation, oh my goodness, you wouldn't have dared do that. One look from my mother. Why am I saying this? I also mentor young people. And I remember there was one of them that I was mentoring, and she changed jobs about 2 or 3 times during a space of maybe 2 months or 3 months. Why? Because she couldn't stand the office politics. What am I saying? We need to build an enabling environment. And we need to understand as leaders that every generation is different. I'm not saying that we should be an expert in psychology, but you see, everything that we talk about when we talk about emotional intelligence, that's where it comes into play. Emotional intelligence is very important. And when you begin to understand, you see, one of the things that I believe as leaders is when you yourself know yourself as an individual, when you are in touch with yourself, you know that one day you can be moody, one day you can be, on the high spectrum of mental health, like Dr. Jibril told us. Then you will understand that if you can go through an array of emotions in one day, then every other person who is equally a human being is subject to those array of emotions. And so it boils down from understanding people as humans, not machine. And we need to appreciate that the way that our young people, there's the society in which they're being brought up is so different to ours. I would advise any leader that is employing millennials or Gen Z, first of all, try to get to understand how they think. Because If you see human beings as assets, then what you want to do is you want to increase the value of your asset. Meaning that if somebody comes to my workplace and is a young person, I want to take them under my wing and improve them. I want to work on their life so that even if they leave me, because that's one of the things that leaders, the reason why they don't invest in people is, oh, what if I give them all this training and they leave? So what? Do you get what I'm saying? They're always thinking about the bottom line. But when you look at them as an individual, get to understand who they are. When you were interviewing them, there were things. Did you not ask them, where do you see yourself in this organization 2 to 3 years? Put in a proper learning environment for them to grow. There's nobody that you appreciate that will not give you the best that they have. Honestly, humans are humans, whether Generation Z or whatever we want to class them as. If you treat them as humans, you will get the best from them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for your contributions. I want to thank Dr. Jibril for his time. This is a 90-minute webinar. We have overshot by 4 minutes. So I want to keep to my time and round up. I know that I still have some questions here, but I would share them with the speakers later on, and then you can get your answers on our social media and our posts. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you, Ma. Thank you to everyone who has joined in. Do have a lovely, lovely day. Enjoy the rest of the day. And please don't stop talking about mental health in your organizations. Do have a productive day. Thank you.